Good morning. It's time for another episode of Discipleship Today. My name's Pastor Bob Benson. I'm pastor of Christ Lutheran Church out in Bemis Point. We've been using the book of John as a discipleship text because of that special relationship that John had with Jesus Christ. But today I'm going to break from the book of John, and I really want to talk about Jesus' life and his disciple building mentality and way of life. We know from Jesus' life, he was one of the greatest disciple builders. He poured into 12 guys, who then 11 of those guys went on and changed the world. And with the help of the Holy Spirit, with the indwelling of Jesus Christ's Spirit inside of them, and that's what we're looking for. I am in ministry today because somebody got a hold of me and developed me, saw talents and abilities, and I'm telling you, he challenged me very early on to be a disciple maker. And in that, disciple making is very different than you might think it is. I don't think Jesus went out and picked 12 guys that he wanted to hang out with all the time. And the reason I know that is you look at the cross section of the 12 guys that he chose. He chose all the way from Simon the Zealot to Matthew the tax collector. Such a politically economic, diverse group, which we would never do today. The way most of us decide to make disciples is we find somebody neat that we want to hang out with and spend time with, and that is not what it's about. It's about who God puts in your path. And God put different people in Jesus' path, and he sees them. And he used their talents and abilities and developed them. And that's what happened to me, and that's what I've been committed to doing, is not finding people that I want to hang out with, but finding those people that God puts in my path. Okay? I can tell you that some of the people that I disciple are not the people that I want to hang out with, but God's put them in my path, and I love them because of it. Jesus chose the 12, but then there was 3 that were separate, and they had complete access to his life. They went everywhere with him. When he went deep into the garden, the 3 went with him. And I was challenged by my disciple maker to make disciples in the same way. You have to have 3 that you're pouring your entire life into, that if they called you at 2 o'clock in the morning and said they needed something, you would drop everything to help them. You need 12. The 12 that Jesus had, including those 3, that you know that you're living life with. If you saw them in the grocery store, you would stop and talk to them. But then also Jesus sent out the 72. He knew that they knew his message well enough that they would carry it to the world. I was challenged. My pastor handed me a piece of paper, and he says, I want you to put names on this piece of paper. I want you to write down 3, 12, and 72. And on the paper it was configured as a target with that bullseye, the inner circle, those 3. The next circle out is the 12, and the next circle out is the 72. And here's the thing, don't get hung up on the numbers. And don't get hung up on the people remaining in those circles. There are people that will choose to move from the 3 to the 12, or from the 12 to the 72. That's their choice. That's the hard thing about discipling. Even Jesus lost 1. And it hurts when people walk away from that discipleship, especially as you're pouring in, but it does happen. It's their choice. So I'm going to encourage you today, if you are a disciple maker or you are being made a disciple, to take that pattern of Jesus and implement it in your life and start intentionally, because I think we all get this idea that it'll just happen, but I think we have to be more intentional. I think the church has to become more intentional about what we've been called to do. We've been called to love God, love others, and make disciples. And I've got a guy in my life who is one of my 12 who says you can narrow that down to love God, because if you love God, you will love others. And if you love others, you will make disciples. That's what we call in the 4 C's the irreducible core. And that has to be where we live from. loving God, loving others, and making disciples. For Discipleship Today, my name is Pastor Bob Benson.